going on.
That's true. Hi, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Ken. How's it going?
Good, good. What's up?
Hey, a couple days after the hurricane, I walked into Publix, and all the beer and wine sections locked off. Was that a county deal, or was that the city in front of GORDA? For alcohol sales.
Yeah, they did that. That whole curfew. I understand the curfew, but cutting beer and alcohol sales, actually shutting down business that was still viable and could have been making money, I thought was a real dumbass idea. Whose decision was that?
I think, you know, a number of counties made that decision, and ultimately it came through emergency management and the sheriff.
Because what goes better with a hurricane? Beer.
And, you know, and again, most of these things, whether we agree with them or disagree with them, they're sort of based on an experience thing. And in spite of the fact that we had the curfew, and in spite of the fact that I think the Sheriff's Department did a phenomenal job with traffic control and emergencies and stuff, the reality, we had a few houses broken into. What amazes me...
Because they were stealing beer.
Yeah. You know,
so they couldn't get it.
Yeah, you know, whether...
After 9 o'clock, when the curfew's in effect, I can understand, okay, closing early.
Yeah.
But throughout the day...
Well, it seems to me, you know, we're all adults. I don't need Big Brother at the county or the emergency management telling me I can't go buy a cigarette. Now, I wasn't even in there to buy beer that day. I was just in there to pick up a couple things, and I noticed it. And it kind of upset me that, you know, I don't know if it's the county commission endorses this or if it was emergency management, but I just don't understand where they would even have the right to take away, you know, my ability to go buy a bottle of wine if I wanted to. Or
the purveyor's ability to make money.
Yeah, I appreciate what the caller's saying, and you know, and I don't know the answer for it, but I do know, you know, it always amazes me when I see the TV stuff. And well, actually, in Jersey, I was involved in a couple of riots, being on the streets. But it amazes me when you see that. You know, when there's an issue, why do people get drunk? Why do they break windows? Why do they steal and loot? That's not dealing with the issue that they didn't like what a jury did or what a judge did or some decision that someone made. So where do you lash out? I was told that we're supposed to have a demonstration at the municipal building, I think, sometime today. And I was told about the issue, which I don't remember right now, frankly. I said, God, that has nothing to do with the county. But, you know, what do you do and where do people lash out? And, you know, most of those decisions when people make them, you know, and I hate to abrogate, I'm a constitutionalist and I don't want to abrogate our rights because I really feel strongly about that. When those, and by the way, emergency management makes all the decisions. You know,
but they must be aren't they empowered by the county commission to make?
Yes, decisions? We are. But once we declare the state of emergency, you know, we have involvement. But literally, Jerry makes the decisions. What happens in this county? You know, he's
okay.
You know,
so he's the one who screwed the pooch on this.
Well,
one.
I don't. You know, I don't think that.
He did. I mean, I don't mind the curfew. I can understand the curfew, but preventing business owners from being able to conduct their business when they're able to conduct their business prior to the curfew going into effect, I think it's an asinine decision on his part.
I agree with you there, Ken, and maybe Mr. Deitch, you can maybe make for next time this comes around.
Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? Tonight, what if the Constitution no longer applied? What if the whole purpose of the Constitution was to limit the government? What if Congress's enumerated powers in the Constitution no longer limited Congress, but were actually used as a justification to extend Congress's authority over every realm of human life? What if the president, meant to be an equal to Congress, has instead become a democratically elected, term-limited monarch? What if the president assumed that everything he did was legal just because he's the president? What if he could interrupt your regularly scheduled radio and TV programming for a special message from him? What if he could declare war on his own? What if he could read your emails and your texts without a search warrant? What if he could kill you without warning? What if Supreme Court justices no longer looked to the Constitution to determine the constitutionality of a law, but rather simply to what justices who preceded them thought about it? What if the rights and principles guaranteed in the Constitution have been so distorted in the past 200 years as to be unrecognizable by the founders? What if the 50 states were no longer sovereign entities, equals to each other, and parents of the federal government they voluntarily constituted? What if the states were mere provinces of a totally nationalized and fully centralized government? What if the Constitution was amended stealthily, not by constitutional amendments duly ratified by the states, but by the constant and persistent expansion of the federal government's role in our lives? What if the federal government decided if its own powers were proper and constitutional? What if the Constitution were no longer the supreme law of the land? What if you needed a license from the government to speak, to assemble, or to protest against the government? What if the government didn't like what you planned to say, and so it didn't give you the license? What if the right to keep and bear arms only applied to the government? What if posse comitatus, the federal law that prohibits our military from occupying our streets, were no longer in effect? What if the government considered the military an adequate dispenser of domestic law enforcement? What if cops looked and acted like troops and you couldn't distinguish the military from the police? What if you were not secure in your person, in your papers, and in your property? What if federal agents could write their own search warrants in defiance of the Constitution? What if the government could decide when you were and were not entitled to a jury trial? What if the government could take your property whenever it wanted? What if the government could continue prosecuting you until it got the verdict it wanted? What if the government could force you to testify against yourself simply by labeling you a domestic terrorist? What if the government could torture you until you said what the government wanted to hear? What if people running for president actually supported torture? What if the government tortured your children to get to you? What if government judges and government lawyers intimidated juries into convicting the innocent? What if the government could send you to your death and your innocence meant nothing so long as the government's procedures were followed? What if America's prison population, the largest in the world, was a cruel and unusual way for a country to be free? What if half the prison population never harmed anyone but themselves? What if the people had no rights except those the government chose to let them have? What if the states had no rights except to do as the federal government commanded? What if our elected officials didn't really live among us, but instead all had their hearts and homes in Washington, D.C.? What if the government could strip you of your rights because of where your mother was when you were born? What if the income tax was unconstitutional? What if the states were convinced to give up their representation in Congress? What if the government tried to ban you from using a substance in your body that is older than the government itself? What if voting didn't mean anything anymore because both political parties stand for big government? What if the government could write any law, regulate any behavior, and tax any event? The Constitution be damned. What if the government was the reason we don't have a Constitution anymore? What if you could love your country but hate what the government has done to it? What if sometimes to love your country you had to alter or abolish the government? What if Jefferson was right? What if that government is best which governs least? What if I'm right? What if the government is wrong? What if it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong? What if it is better to perish fighting for freedom than to live as a slave? What if freedom's greatest hour of danger is now?
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I'd like to thank you for all your years of support through the years. As a result, this channel has grown and allowed me an equity partnership in carmarshal.com. Please take the time to check them out. They help you buy and sell your next car, even have a negotiating tool to save you from the hassle of haggling with multiple dealers. The link is in the description below. Please click and help support and give if you can too through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks again.